What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Us vs. Them MMA channel. I'm your host, Vince, and in this video, we're going to break down the co-main event for the UFC 330 this weekend. We have Gillian Robertson versus Mackenzie Dern. Right now, we have Gillian Robertson sitting at a plus 176 underdog, and on the other side, we have Mackenzie Dern, the favorite, sitting at minus 230. This is obviously a fight between two grapplers. We all know Mackenzie Dern is a jiu-jitsu world champion, so it's the jiu-jitsu that's got her to this point in her career. And then on the other side of this, we have Gillian Robertson. She's more of a wrestler. She looks to get girls to the ground and pound, soften them up, and then look for that submission. So two grapplers, but very different style of grappling. But before we get too far into the weeds of the grappling, we have to talk about the striking first, because obviously every fight starts on the feet. So these two girls have shown in the past that the striking can maybe be a little bit of a hole in their game, but they're fighting each other, so there's not a huge advantage one way or the other. But I still think that between the two girls, Mackenzie Dern probably has the advantage in the striking, and it's just because of her willingness to throw. In her last few fights, we've just seen her just kind of be more reckless in the striking, and I think reckless in a good way, just because the girls that she's fighting, they just don't have as much concussive power as obviously guys, men's MMA. But because of her power, her durability, and her trust in her jiu-jitsu, and if she gets taken down, Mackenzie Dern is able to strike with a freedom that not a lot of UFC fighters can strike with. She doesn't have a whole lot of concerns in the striking realm compared to pretty much anybody else on the roster. And because of all these things, I think Mackenzie Dern will have the advantage in the striking. Robertson is going to be the better wrestler, and I fully expect her to do exactly what she does every single fight, which is look to use her boxing and her striking to just set up, to get an opportunity to do a leg attack. She's really proficient with the leg attacks, body locks, single legs, all that shit, and just really good at getting the fight to the ground and getting on top. So I fully expect her to have that same exact game plan this weekend. I don't think the jiu-jitsu of Mackenzie Dern is going to scare her off. But taking down Mackenzie Dern is sometimes the easy part of the equation. The harder part is keeping her down and staying safe in her guard. We all know that she's got a really active guard. She's really, really dangerous there with her jiu-jitsu, her sweeps, and all that stuff. And, if you're watching my stuff, you guys already know that. But if you go back to her most recent fight against Virna Jandiroba, we saw, Jandiroba get takedowns, and Mackenzie Dern being able to keep herself safe in the guard and to land big elbows from the bottom. I mean, to the point where Jandiroba just said, you know what? It's not worth holding her down, and decided to get up and just say, fuck it. I'm not even going to try to hold her down. So it's just another layer to her guard that she's adding. And like I said, taking her down, not necessarily the hard part. Keeping her down and staying safe is a lot harder, a lot easier said than done. But the reality is, I think the path to victory for Gillian Robertson is the same path as it is for every single fight, and it's to get the fight on the ground and to get on top. So if she's not able to manage the guard of Mackenzie Dern, she's going to be in for a long fight this weekend. This one's tough to predict, especially given the fact that there's a decent possibility that it goes to the judges' scorecards, and we all know that damage is the #1 scoring criteria for the judges. So when I'm thinking about damage, I definitely envision Mackenzie Dern landing the bigger shots and causing more damage, on the striking. But when it comes to the damage and the grappling, of course there's a possibility where Mackenzie Dern just catches her in submission. But at that point, the damage component is kind of irrelevant. The fight's over. She already submitted her, right? But if that doesn't happen, we're talking about damage on the ground, and I definitely favor Gillian Robertson being able to do more damage on the ground. She's just historically shown that she's able to implement ground and pound and soften her opponents up just enough to be able to find those openings for the submissions. And just beyond the X's and O's of a fight, sometimes you just gotta go with your gut, and my gut is just telling me that I think Gillian Robertson is going to be able to get it done this weekend. Her coach is Dean Thomas, and he's pretty high on a pedestal for MMA coaches, in my opinion. As far as somebody who just understands the fight game, understands the X's and O's in fighting, and can develop a game plan to beat opponents. So he really, really understands this. He commentates, he coaches, he used to fight. He's done it all. So I do trust that Dean Thomas is going to develop a game plan, and I guess the pick is more for him than anything. Official pick is Robertson by decision. Robertson by decision right now is sitting at plus 300. And although I do like the value of the prop, I like the number, I'm giving you guys my pick with relatively low confidence. Obviously, the Mackenzie Dern submission is very much alive. But I do believe I have this one narrowed down to pretty much two props right now. And it's Robertson by decision or Dern by submission. And I'm just leaning more towards the Gillian Robertson train this weekend. All right, guys, that's all I got for you guys in this breakdown. Stop by for my next video. We'll break down Jalen Turner versus Kai Fernandez. That is going to be an awesome fight. You guys already know that's going to be a sick fight, and I do envision some money-making opportunities there. So stop by for that video, and of course, Friday night, we're going to have a parlay video. So stop by for that too. So I'm the fuck out of here.